Alright, I've added another window to my capture here. So as you can see, this is the Tobii eye tracking experience window. Tobii eye tracking experience window. And you hit its settings here and you can turn it on right there. So if I do that, I'm looking right now and obviously it's confused. So it doesn't know what to do. So if I preview my gaze, for example, and I just look around, it's looking around right now and it's previewing my gaze. I don't know if you can see that, probably not. So I'll turn that off for now. And I can calibrate the Tobii eye tracker by just hitting improve calibration, and when I do that it'll show me the dots and I've got to look at my screen and just basically look at the dots. But I've turned that on and I'll downsize it, and so now I'm back in the aircraft. This is very cool. So I have some of the controls, just very simple controls mapped. So the actual reset control is mapped to my Warthog joystick, where it's just the number one trigger and on the joystick itself. So if I hit that, it looks at where my head is currently and it just resets that. So if I'm over here and I hit reset, it goes right back to center, but now my head is sideways. So if I look sideways or look straight at the camera again, this is where I'm looking. So if I hit reset, it'll set me back in. So, and if I look at some of the configuration controls I have here, what I've done is I've mapped the sensitivity. Let me just go over to Tobii here, and I've got the Tobii profile I've created, and here are the sensitivities that I have right now. So I have the eye versus head tracking ratio at 0.8. I found this is really good because if it's higher, it tends to, when I'm clicking switches, they tend to move a lot, right? So it tends to jitter or shake while I'm looking at the switch, so it makes it very difficult to target that switch. The eye tracking responsiveness seems to be fine at 0.5, and the sensitivity, pitch and yaw seems to be good at 2. Center stabilization at 0.19, roll at 1, and the head tracking position is important. So this is when I lean in to look at something, it'll zoom in, and that's very important. And I have that set at 1.8, and the auto center tracking set to 1. I'm sure, I think that just is the speed of auto center. I can change that to 5 and see what happens, but those are my settings right now for that. And I have a couple of things mapped here. If I look at the Warthog joystick under camera, I believe, yeah, eye tracking reset is mapped to 2 things. It's mapped to 28, which is a button on my throttle. And if you look at the buttons on your throttle, 28 would be mapped to the autopilot button. I don't need that mapped to the autopilot. I don't need any other mappings for the autopilot, so I use that. And I have it 1 mapped to my joystick for 1. So I put an additional mapping in there. And so that's pretty good. That's pretty cool. And then I have the turn on and off for that mapped to the keyboard. So if I go over to the keyboard, see if I can find that quite easily. And cockpit, I think the eye tracking would be home. I have that mapped to home. So if I just scroll down here, I'm hoping to find it quickly. If I just click, let's just go down here, and if you see head tracking here, then that's set to home. So I could do a search by name and find that quicker, but that's just the home key. It has it mapped to the F12 key, but I have a miniature keyboard as well that I like to use. It's actually an Apple keyboard, and I've got a Windows computer, so I've got that mapped there. So those are the 2 mappings that are essential for turning it on and actually using it. So right now it's on. So where I'm to do a cold start on the aircraft, I'm lucky because I have this little iPad mini here on the side, and I can go to documentation for the iPad mini and checklists for this aircraft. There is a HP G160 quick start. Let me have a look at that. This is the dark checklist is what I want, and that'll give me the power up mode. So when I'm sitting here with my head tracker, just kind of looking around at the airport and seeing if my co-pilot, and she's in a good mood, I think she's just not saying anything. And I've got my passengers in the back, and they're probably, in a good mood as well. They're just waiting for me to get this aircraft off the ground. So if I just zoom in, all I'm doing is leaning my head forward and it's pretty friggin' stable, I'd say. So I got to turn my batteries, my generator, and my E-gen on, emergency generator on, and my ground, my start cart, my DC ground power unit, and do a power up test. And then my radar altimeters have to be on, my flight management system FMS 1 and 2 need to be on, and I'll do a lamp test, and away we go. So if I just look up like this slightly and then lean over like this, I can see my switches up top, which is pretty cool. Now if I steady my head, and this is something you got to get used to when you're using this, is that just steady your head and you'll be fine. So I turn battery 1 on and battery 2 on, and if I just adjust the eye tracker a bit more, maybe it'll be a little more stable. So generator 1 on. Targeting this is a little tricky, and generator 2 on, and then I have to put in the ground power unit like this, and then the emergency generator, I'll throw that on as well. And then over a little further over here, I've got the radar altimeter and the flight management systems that I need to turn on to. So you see how it's jittering around like this? Now if I just go back here for a second and go to controls again and go to Tobii eye tracker, see if I can adjust this ever so slightly, and I look at sensitivity again, and I turn this to say 60%. Let's just leave that at 60%, and then apply and save. Now I'll have a look at see how stable the that is up top. I found it okay, but so if I go over here again, and that's at 60%, and I look at my radar altimeter, it's still jittering a little bit like I had. So I think 70 was fine. Turn the FMS, turn this FMS, and then I can do my lamp audio test like that. And I don't need to look down here for the lamp test, I don't believe. If I zoom in here, yeah, engine 1's not on, so I got a fail there. And this EPU is fine. IBF is an input filter for the engine 1 and 2, and it says clogged. I'm not sure what problems that's going to cause, but let's just move over here and turn the this test off. And this is auxiliary pump. I'll leave that on for now, and that lets me check my cyclic here and my collective to make sure that I'm fine here like that. So I'll test those, and I'm going to go back into the control panel because I think that the settings I had before were better. So if I look at sensitivity again, I think I like that up at 8. That was good enough for me. But you can play with these all day long to make sure you're good with the settings. So this is a little bit better. There's a little more lag in there. So I've got the lamp test. I did that. The lights. So pilot MFD. So I just have to do the checks here. The heading compass versus the standby compass. So, and there's the standby compass there. Let me just lean over a bit on the standby compass. Yeah, and that's at 340 maybe, 340, something like that. And this is the same over here, the compass setting here. So that's good. So I've done that check. So message list, page parameters check, heading and standby compass, I've checked that. Altimeter set, decision height as required, fuel quantity. So I'm not going to bother. These are the decision heights here, and this is the decision altimeter, decision height here. This is decision altitude, and then the barometer settings. I'm going to assume that that 1013 kilopascals are fine. I think that's kilopascals, and that's good. And if I lean in here, I can check my payload. I've got no payload on this aircraft right now, but I might want to check. I've got a lot of crew in here, and it looked like fairly non-heavy people, but I'll throw in 455 plus me and plus the co-pilot. I'll just throw in 660 here, and the rest of these total fuel And if you look up here, I think it gives me my fuel per kilograms per hour here. But I'll change this fuel, and I'm just going to add more fuel to the aircraft here. I'm going to max out on the fuel, and as I roll this over, if you look over here, you can see the fuel going up. So it's at 888 now, and I just roll that up some more, and so we almost have the total fuel here. So that's that, and then I right click on that, and that sets that, and I won't worry about the payload right now. So that's that part. And lean in again, and I get panel lighting as required, emergency exits, cockpit lighting, etc., etc. Floats off, wipers as required, and then the terrain avoidance warning system on. So let me just go down to my lights and see if I can turn those on. So I got emergency lights armed, I got seat belt signs on, reading lights on, ambient lights, anti-collision lights. I'm going to go red on that. Again, you got to keep, with the Tobii, you got to keep your eyes right. So if I just reset the Tobii like that by pressing that trigger button like this, and then I look down again, it sort of reset that a bit, but you really have to keep your head steady and then stare at the switch that you're going to flip. So I think those anti-collision lights were set to red, and so that's all good. And then I'm going to just turn my panel light level. I think I'm able to just flip that up like that. And then over here, just again, I'm leaning over to look at this, and I'm putting my floats on auto. My HTAS, my terrain avoidance system is here. My auto trim is on. So when I'm going to turn on my autopilot 1, my autopilot 2. Again, it flickers a bit, but you get used to this. And so that's all good right there. And let me just lean over, and I'm going to acknowledge some of the, we're good there, I think. So floats off, I put them on as required HTAS. So weather radar, test and standby. The weather radar is down here. So I would put this on, let me see if I can look down here. So again, I got to look over like this. This is the weather radar right down here. So I would put this on test and standby. So this is a little bit awkward with the Tobii eye tracker. If I were to go into these, this is me just flipping through the various, you can still use Tobii as you flip through the various avionics. So right now I'm in Tobii but flipping through the avionics. So here it said put that on standby, and then test, and then back to standby. I think we'll turn that on. So there we go. So there, I think I've got a map as to actually get to these various components or the various avionics. But if I turn my head in Tobii, it allows me to go look at the actual aircraft avionics as I'm flipping these around, right? So there's the head panel. So I'm going to turn this off again. Here we go, and just use the generic Tobii tracking as I set this. So there's MFD. Check the maps as required. So there we go. Check that. All good. I'm in Ottawa at the Ottawa International Airport. Back to VMS for engines, and check that out. I'm almost ready to start the aircraft. Check parameters, check system status, check oil levels, check. Really, that doesn't matter until I actually start the engine. Aux pump, I did that already, and I did my checks on my collective, my cyclic and my collective. And pedals, I didn't do it, but I'm just going to skip that for now. So that's all good. So that's that particular page. And then I can go to the second page here, and I'm going to start the engine. So VMS page, I've selected that, engine 1 and 2 set to idle. So if I back up again, now I can, because where my head is, I can reset this, because I may have just leaned over and not reset my head properly. So I can look up here and then set this to idle. So set engine 1 to idle, and that's going to rotate engine 1. There you go. And if I step out of the aircraft, you'll see that the rotation happening here. There we go. And look at that smoke coming out there. I needed to clear that filter off. Right, so, and it's not letting me zoom in when I'm in this mode, but it's letting me look around. So while this aircraft is starting, I can say, well, look, let's have a look at the gate. And let's look over here, and there's the Ottawa airport. And I'm looking all over the place here. And that's pretty cool. So it's like your ground crew here, and you're able to look around the airfield. So let's jump back in the aircraft here. So I've started engine 1, and then of course I'm going to look at make sure that the N1. So I've got to make sure that my engine input N1. So that's my fan. Air intake N1's at 90 for engine 1. And if I look at my rotor rotation, my NR is 80. I'm just going to zoom right in there with my head. That's at 80, and then N2 should be coming up. Where the heck is N2? It's not here. It's not showing. I bet you if I flip the electrics, it'll show. No, it's not going to show. Hydraulics, no. There's the hydraulics. And that's pretty cool anyway. So systems. There we go. And I think I can go back from nav D to VMS page. And if I click that again, I'm back in the game. There we go. Engine startup was good. EPO connected, clogged. So I think I can do engine 2 now. So I'm checking my torque is increasing. My N2 NR observed as accelerating. For some reason I don't have my N2 here. The pages are being replaced by electrics. I'll figure that out after. Miscellaneous demapping. Config, not installed. Went back to status. And there we go. There's my N2 here. An N2 77.2. So I can collect or figure out what my N2 is there. So back up to starting engine 2. So I'm just going to go up here and look at my engines again, and I can pop that down. That's N2 starting, or sorry, my engine 2 starting, and I have to look at N1 for engine 2. That's climbing at 13%, and my torque should climb on that as well, and my NR, which is the rotation speed of my blades, the rotor head, is at 80. So, and my engine oils are coming up nicely. Everything seems to be fine. I can acknowledge any problems here. And my auxiliary, so it's telling me to disconnect my generator. So that's a message. Disconnect your generator, buddy. So I can disconnect the ground power unit here. And I don't know if I need my emergency generator on while I'm flying. Perhaps. I'll leave it on anyway. So that's good. Those are good. My batteries are on. My generator's on. Batteries will recharge. Fuel state's good. It's giving me, as you can see here, 6 hours and 28 minutes of flight, I believe. And that's the kilograms per hour, 145 kilograms per hour. So this is, let me see, my TOT, which would be, I think, the total output temperature, N1 and TOT, I think. Anyway, rotor spinning, NR is fine. Observed accelerating, increased hydraulic pressure is good. Engine 2 started. I decoupled the ground power unit, the start cart, and the GPU door check in op. I don't think I need to check that. My floats are auto or as required. So if I look down here at my floats, there's my floats, and I have them on auto. So this is all with the Tobii eye tracker. You can just flip around really fast. And then I've got my, what's this here? It's cutoff system on, APCP, good. Let's go back here and see if I've got page 3. So now I'm taxiing. So if I'm in that situation here, I can just go up here. I'll leave the documentation up. But again, you stare at what you're going to look at. So this is my autopilot here. So when I just sit back, if you see me sitting back and I sit back far to fly, I'll go through the seat. But if I click auto reset with that center trigger again, there, I'm back in business. So now if I pull the aircraft up just a bit and taxi, I think everything else is fine. I'm going to put this in map mode because it just annoys me to not be in any mode. Let me see if I move over here and I look at this and I just say give me the map. So I can put this in map mode, and I would use this likely just to taxi, right, to allow me to taxi. So I'd zoom in here and then be able to taxi. But for now, zoom in, zoom out. There's zoom in and out. So if I zoom in, again with the eye tracker, you got to keep your head steady as you're doing this, or alternatively you flip into the instruments, and I have a trigger set to do that. So if I flip into the instruments here, I'm zoomed in pretty high here, but then I can get in the precision can be here as I zoom in, right? So north up, reset, there's out. Yeah, so my aircraft is here somewhere. I think I'm right over here maybe. Anyway, let's get out of this. I'm in pan mode. OPS, yeah, don't need that. Yeah, we're good. And I've got my comm set up, my nav set up, and look over here, and again I'm in instrument mode here, so it's snapping to the instrument view, but with the Tobii eye tracker, it wants to be there we go, it's out of the instrument mode by just clicking that #1 trigger again. So let's get up in the air. What I find cool is that I can look outside, and if I were to use that as a guidance in search and rescue, it would help probably a lot for landing on the oil rigs, which I've done a few times, right? So let me just pull the aircraft up slowly here and get it off the ground. Come on. Yeah, wait a second. Something's suspicious here. Landing gear is down, and my parking brake is off, and the autopilot should be off right now, so there should be no issue. So I should be able to hover. So if I can't hover for some reason, I'm not sure what's wrong. There's I think I probably have it locked. This is what I did before. I think I locked the actual aircraft. So there's something, I know what it is. So here we go. What I did was I forgot in my checklist, I need to put the engines in flight mode. So if I look over here and look back, these things here need to be in flight mode and flight mode. Right, so the engines are now in flight mode. So this was me figuring out, okay, why am I not flying? Because I'm in idle, that's why. So let me just take off now. I should be able to leave the ground nicely and start to hover. And as I get up above the ground here, just around here, I'm going to put the autopilot on. And I have one of my switches on my stick, my big red switch is on autopilot mode. And so I'm using the height, which is using the radar altimeter for height, and it's height above the ground, where the altitude switch right next to the height switch is in fact using the barometric altitude. So I've got it in height mode. Now what I'm hoping here is if I hit the GTC button, I'll be able to taxi. So we're going to see if that works. If it doesn't, I'll figure something else out. So I'm in GTC mode, and now I should be able to taxi. So, and I actually don't know why it slips sideways in GTC mode, but it seems to slip sideways. And I'm not sure why it's doing that in this GTC mode. It happened before. Somebody can help me here and let me know why that would be happening. But if I just adjust this slightly, GTC yaw, and I have that mapped in my cockpit as well. So I'm going to turn off this GTC mode, put it back into hover, and then we got a truck coming by, which is nice. and then I'm going to take it off the hover mode, right, and just basically taxi and watch I don't hit these vehicles, right. So let's just find a line to get out to the runway, and I'm using the Tobii eye tracker here to do this. And again, I'm going sideways for some reason. I do not understand why the aircraft is running sideways a bit. But I'm going to trim it out this way a little and see if I can't get this aircraft going forward. So I think my autopilot is screwing me. So there we go. The aircraft is going forward. I'm just going to go down to the end of the runway here. And I give it a little bit of rudder. And let's get down to the end of the runway here and try not to hit any trucks. And this is again the Ottawa airport, so if I were to just gaze over to the side here, this is my co-pilot, there's some hangars there. And there's a hotel right there, you can see that. I can't remember if that's, I think maybe that's a Marriott, maybe. I can't remember. I've never stayed at that hotel before. So there we go. I'm just getting to the end of the runway, and I'm going to try to slow the aircraft down a bit. Now it's still in altitude hold mode here. I don't want to go off in this taxiway here. Just reset my Tobii eye tracker. So I'm trying to be a good citizen here and just follow my way to the end of the runway as opposed to just taking off with a helicopter like I would normally do. So I'm slowing down considerably right now. Let me just bump this forward here. And you can see that the pan, on the autopilot right there, you can see that the pinch mode sets when I shove my stick forward. The pinch mode actually sets here. So there we go. Let's get some more velocity. There's the FedEx hangar there, and let me get to the end here. What's cool is that where I look is where it's seeing, which is really cool. Anyway, I'm sliding sideways again for some reason. Somebody can let me know why that's happening in the 160 aircraft. I don't think I should be unless I've got a heavy wind that I forgot or that I set. But anyway, I'm generally following the line to the end of the runway or the beginning of the runway. So, and normally I would stop and wait and allow our ground control to tell me when I'm clear to take off, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to spin around here a bit and slow down a bit. And let's just set myself up on runway 25. That'd be 250 degrees for you people that understand runways and how they're designed. And I think I'm okay. So I'm just drifting backward again with my nice little helicopter here. So I'm just going to go like this, and then I can put it in hover mode here. So I just have my big red button there, allows me to put this in hover mode. And I reset, give it a little bit of pedal here. So I'm all ready to take off. I would ask for ask to be able to take off with ATC. But anyway, let's just fly out. So I'll turn off my altitude out of the hover mode, and I think I can go height, and I need to just turn off the autopilot. So that switch that I had before should have turned off the autopilot, but let me just, there we go. So I got some control now, and my speed is up to 20 knots, and I'm looking up. What's cool is I look down at the instruments, but if I look up I can see the runway, and I can see the Ottawa airport. So I'm just going to fly by here, not too fast, not too slow, and there's the Ottawa airport. This is going to be really good for search and rescue. So if you go through a SAR mission. So let me just fly around here for a second. I'm just going to fold this tablet in here, get it out of the way, and there we go. Everything seems to be running nicely. See, my torque 80%, that's all good, and my My NR rotor is 98. So I was watching a video of the Flying Doctor, I think it was called, and he said that in this particular aircraft, when you pull up here on the collective, it also changes your engine speed. This is not normal in other helicopters, where you would actually have a knob that you'd be rotating on the collective to actually increase your engine speed, and you get it up to a certain speed, and then when you pull up on the collective, it just simply changes the pitch on the blades to give you lift. So there we go. So right there, that is the hotel on the right, and then there is the convention center on the left of that hotel with all that free parking. And so it's got the train warning system on. So here you would be going down the street right here towards Hunt Club. So if I'm driving down this street, or flying down this street here, I'm going towards Hunt Club. I can bring my map up, but there's probably no need. And the canal, the Ottawa Canal, would be right over here somewhere. So if I drive this way here, fly this way, I'm flying towards the Ottawa Canal. So the Tobii eye tracker just gives you a total feel of immersion with this simulator. Like you feel like you're part of it. I think the canal's over here. Yeah. I can't see me, no canal. I think it's further over. There it is. Is it there? I'm not sure. I should recognize all these malls. There is the canal there, I think, straight ahead. So I can kind of follow the canal all the way up to the highway, which was the Queensway. So if I were to just drop down here, slow down a bit here, drop down and follow the canal. It doesn't like the fact that is that the canal? That's not the canal. I think I'm lost in the non-canal. Well, we'll fly up this way anyway. Yeah, I think that I missed the canal somehow. Yeah, I'm just flying towards the city of Ottawa, and we'll just fly up there for a few seconds and just lower my collective a bit. See, I'm looking right there to make sure I've got my see, I'm increasing in altitude here, so I just lower my collective, and my speed is decreasing, so I'm down 100 knots. So I just want to settle this in. Now I can just set this in my autopilot to there's the canal there. There you are, Mr. Canal. I can just set that in my autopilot to allow me to just have my altitude hold, right? I should turn off my train warning system here. But there's the water, there's the canal. And if I keep following the canal, it's going to get right up to the 401. And then that gets you, when I cross the, not the 401, I meant the Queensway, but if I cross the Queensway, then I'm into the city of Ottawa. So, and I think it's called Riverside Drive is the highway that follows the canal all the way up. Not sure if they've mapped Riverside Drive, but this is the canal. So, yeah, this is kind of cool. So let me just fly into the city of Ottawa here. Enough nonsense here. I think I had the canal. There is the Queensway down here. So if I look down there, there's the highway. That's called the Queensway. And there's, I didn't have the canal actually. That was another riverway. But this is the canal here. And this canal will go right through the city here and join up with the Ottawa River. So I'm just going to follow the canal here. And if you look over on the side, on the left-hand side, there's the Parliament buildings. And let me follow the canal all the way down here. And they're probably wondering why there's an H-160 that's so close. And it looks like there's a drop for the canal. And there we go. And just like I've done before, I really want to see if the automatic float bags allow me to. There is the museum. So in Canada, there's a Museum of Nature right there, the Canada flag on it. So I'm just going to turn my aircraft around here slowly. I'm still going a little bit fast, but I'm trying to bleed off some speed here. And I'm going to just go into a hover here and then see if I can land nice and lightly here. So I got to check my power, and I'm probably going to crash again, but let me just see if I can come down nice and easy. I'm going to shut up while I do this to see if I can do this without with my float bags being deployed. Let's see if this works. Auto float bag, come on, don't do me wrong here. I'm doing this manually, no autopilot. There we go. Look at that. Just deployed the float bags. Look at those babies. Those are amazing. So let me step out of the aircraft for a second and have a look at what that looks like. There we go. And if you look, yeah, there's the city of Hull right there. And then if you look, there's the aircraft, and I'm using my Tobii eye tracker again, and up there are the Parliament buildings right there. So I can take off and suck the air out of my float bags and see what happens. Now in real life, you can't reinstall the float bags in an aircraft. That's not possible. But there I am. So I would just, let me just increase my, well, I should actually just end the video right here because this is a pretty cool look. So there's the aircraft sitting in the Ottawa River, float bags deployed, and just sitting there wondering what, and the passengers are wondering what the hell happened. So again, with the Tobii eye tracker, I'm moving my head around here and looking at the Parliament buildings. I'm looking everywhere. It's just phenomenal. This is an amazing add-on to your flight simulation immersion. And I just look around here and everything's fine. And if I just actually right in here, the float bags, if I basically I can redeploy the float bags, but I've got to go back here, hit the tablet, right? Let's see if I can do this just for the hell of it, right? And I think if I go up here, I can repack the floats. Now if I repack the floats without taking off, I'm going to end up in trouble. So let's just hover. Let's get up a bit like this, and then I'll hit the hover like that, and then I'm going to, so now I'm hovering, and if I step out of the aircraft for a second, there I am in the hover mode, and there's a cool picture, right? I'm gonna have to take a picture of this just so I can use this as my screen for this particular video. And now when I jump in the aircraft and I hit repack the floats, so I just lean forward and Tobii again, and hit repack the floats. There we go. Look outside and you can see there's no floats. Or as they say in French, le floats ne pas là. I should have taken up my landing gear before, but I didn't. So there's my landing gear folding up. Just kind of a neat look. There we go. Landing gear folding up. And yeah, that's pretty cool. And again, I can look around while I'm doing this with the Tobii eye tracker. Jump inside the aircraft. Turn off the autopilot and the height, and then away I go. And we'll just go right up to the Parliament buildings for a second and just do a flyby of the tower. And again, Tobii eye tracker is amazing. I just don't want to hit anything here. So there are the Parliament buildings, and there's the tower, and just look around as it's coming by. And this is downtown Ottawa. As I fly around here, I'm just keen on looking at what I got here, which is pretty cool. And I'm over torquing my engines, And there we go. There's Ottawa and all of its niceness. This aircraft just does not like, there's the Parliament buildings again, there's the library down there. If you look down, so what's cool is I could just look around. There are the bridges there. And there's the, if I look down here, there's the War Museum, sort of in the center of my screen. So right now I'm just keeping my eye on the War Museum as I'm turning the aircraft. So that's pretty cool, because you can point. So there you go. So if I look at an object as I'm turning the aircraft, like if I look at that little island in the center, like this, and then I turn the aircraft, if I just keep that in my point of view, I'm just going to see if I can do this. So now you see the aircraft rotating around that point of view, but I'm keeping this particular object in my point of view as I'm flying. So I've just dropped that point of view now, and that building on the right hand side in the distance. So now I'm staring at that as I move the aircraft around. So this would be great again for search and rescue, because I'd be able to look at the bogey. And there I'm looking down again, and by looking at that bogey while I'm flying, I'd be able to concentrate on flying towards that. So this is the River Parkway here. Let's pick up the speed here. What I was really hoping to be able to do is land in the Best Buy parking lot in Canada. So I can make this video a little bit longer by flying down the river and then try to land in the Best Buy parking lot in Canada. That sounds like something I need to do this morning. It's not 8 o'clock yet, so we're good. So work starts at 8, so I got to make sure I get my butt out of here. This is the River Parkway again. So what I want to do is head up towards the Queensway, which is just a turn over here. I can turn my map on here on the tablet. Should give me a better appreciation of things. Again, you got to get used to staring at the tablet, staring at that object, and then turning the maps on. If you're not staring at the object, then the eye tracker will move. So here I'm crossing the Queensway. So this is the Queensway down here, and again I can look at the Queensway while I'm turning the aircraft. So this is a skill you're going to have to pick up using this Tobii eye tracker, because it's as if you're sitting in the aircraft. So I'd be flying the point. So if you're sitting in the aircraft and you want to turn and line yourself up with the highway or something, you would obviously not be looking straight ahead and then flying the aircraft and waiting until the aircraft came into view, or waiting until the highway came into view. You'd be looking at the highway while you turn the aircraft. And there's the IKEA building on the left hand side, right down there. There's the IKEA building, and we fly by here. They've done a marvelous job in Bing Maps of reproducing all of this. So here's the Bayshore Shopping Center right there. So I'm going to keep my eye on the Bayshore Shopping Center as I turn. And there's the roof of the Bayshore Shopping Center. This is a fairly big shopping center. Yeah, there we go. See how that works? Very good. So once again, the Tobii eye tracker is just an amazing addition to your flight simulator. But you do have to get used to flying with it in a helicopter. I think it's totally different if you're flying in a fixed-wing aircraft, especially if it's a heavy aircraft and you're flying like an Airbus A330 or something. You're not doing the turns that you would do in a helicopter, right? So I'm keeping an eye again on my torque. So I've got my torque, everything is good, all my systems are good. My IBF is still clogged. That's the intake filter for the engines. So I've got a clogged intake filter for the engines. So here, going down the highway again, I'm going to head towards Canada, which is a city just west of Ottawa, and then Canada connects to the city of Stittsville, and that's where I live. And it's an interesting name for a city. So the village of Stitts. So I think as I can see straight ahead, if I center screen there, those buildings, I think it might be the hotels for Canada. So as I fly forward here, well, I'm going to try to get to this Bayshore Shopping Center parking lot. So here, I believe I'm crossing Eagleson Drive right there. I think that's Eagleson going that way. I think. Yeah, that's got to be Eagleson. And then as I go up here, there's some hotels. Just slow down. I got to slow down a bit because I'm going into Centrum Plaza. So right there, down there is the Holiday Inn, as you can see right there. So I'm trying to lower the aircraft here to see if I can get to the Best Buy parking lot. That's my goal today, is to land in the Best Buy parking lot. So if I crash the aircraft, I truly apologize. I could say it's not my fault, but it is. So I'm just keeping a real close eye on my torque.